Hi, guys. Welcome to week 7. Here we are on Monday, April the 20th. We've been in quarantine for weeks. We're just trying to survive and not kill each other, right? But thank God for dogs, right? I mean, how would we get by without them? I don't know. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would make it. I would be very lonely and cold at night. So um I'm so happy you guys are here with us. Week 7 is probably my favorite lecture. Auntie Megan is going to be very jealous that I have this week because I think it's her favorite as well. It's usually my favorite because it's a lot of activity in group class. So we're going to be missing that part, unfortunately, but hopefully my dogs will cooperate and they will be good demo dogs for us today. And we might do, since there is going to be so much demoing, what we might do is allow some time for you guys to do maybe do a 2-minute kind of working on some things with your own dog, if you want to kind of troubleshoot, and then if you have questions, you can ask them in real time. Certainly if you guys are joining us later, just shoot us an email, but I'll try to go through all of the possible issues that you might that people might face, and I've purposely not worked on this tonight's activities with my dogs in particular for a couple of weeks, so they're gonna hopefully be a little bit rusty, so we can kind of work through those issues if we come across them. So I did that on purpose. So I love tonight because we talk about our third and final sub-method of marker training. So far we've worked on capturing. So we catch our dog in the act. We reward behavior that our dogs are doing on their own without any prompting or cueing from us. So if my dog goes to the bathroom outside, I reward them for that. They do that on their own. They make a good choice on their own, and I want to bring that to their attention. It's nothing that I had to micromanage or cue or cause to happen. My dog did it himself, so we want to capture that behavior. Then we've talked about luring, right? So I use a food lure or a toy lure. I put it on my dog's nose. That lure acts like a magnet. So my dog follows that lure. I manipulate their body into a certain body position. When I get the position that I want, I mark and then reward. So we talked about capturing, luring. Tonight is going to be our third and final sub-method called shaping. And it's one of my favorites because I just love a thinking dog, and shaping is a thinking dog's game. And it's just that it's a lot of fun games that you can play with your dog. I really think it's a great way for owners and or handlers and dogs to work on their relationship, have fun with each other, learn how to communicate effectively. So I think it's great for relationship building. It's going to be great for tricks if you want to work towards your trick dog AKC trick dog title. Even if your dog is reactive and doesn't like other dogs and they may not pass the CGC test, your trick dog title, you don't have to be around other dogs. Once we get back to normal, we can test that for you at the training center. And I think the AKC is actually kind of doing a one-time thing where you can send in videos of your dogs doing tricks and they will accept that. While we're in quarantine. But shaping is super, super fun. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am. So shaping actually has kind of two sides to it. So the first is really, right? And we want to break it down into little digestible steps that we can mark and reward along the way to let the dog know that they're on the right track. Right? So the hardest part for us humans is, one, to be patient with this game. You got to wear your patience pants for these games tonight, guys, because some things are going to go quick and some things are going to go slow. Okay. And then the other hardest part is us as humans. We have to determine what the succinct, digestible sections, or what we call in the training world criteria. What are the criteria that we can break down that my dog is going to be able to have the most success with? Okay, so if we were in group class, I would put this to the group. I would see if I could get an answer. If my final behavior is ride a skateboard, what is the smallest behavior that we can break that down into? Okay, so a lot of people will say, put a foot on it. And I always say, can you break it down into even smaller steps? And then sometimes someone will say, sniff it. All right, cool. You're on the right track. Anybody else? Walk up to it, right? How about look at it, right? That is the smallest behavior that we can break that down into to let our dogs know, hey, this prop, this skateboard is involved somehow. If you look at it, and I mark and reward my dog as soon as that eye hits that skateboard, right? They're going to be like, that skateboard looks interesting. Let me look at it again. Mark and reward, right? And my dog's going to be like, something's interesting about this skateboard. Let me look at it again. Mark and reward. Okay? And they might get super interested, and they may start to get their nose engaged. So they might start to sniff it. Mark and reward. So we just climbed a stair to get to that final behavior. We started with looking at it, engaging with the prop. Then we raised our criteria, and the dog led us there, right? They raised the criteria. So now in order to get a reward, my dog needs to sniff it. Okay? Now, when we're free shaping, we're not cueing our dog to do anything. Our dogs are making the choice to interact with this prop. So we, as the humans, we need to manipulate the environment for them to have success. So I don't have any skateboards with me. Let's pretend this is a skateboard, okay? And I'm me, and you guys are the dog, right? So would I put the skateboard over here? Would I put the skateboard over here or behind me? No, I'm going to have the prop in between my dog and I, because I am the source of reinforcement, in this case, food, right? So every time I mark, every time I click, every time I yes, I'm going to reward with food, right? So if the object's way over here and I'm the source of reinforcement, my dog's going to cut out the middleman and come right to me, right? But if I want them engaging and interested in this prop, I'm going to set up the environment where they're most successful. So now, in order to get to the reinforcement, they have to engage with this object, okay? So if my dog goes around it, they didn't succeed. They didn't sniff it. So I don't reward that, right? But next time, maybe I shift, maybe I just move the skateboard a little bit. He's going to be like, whoa, I didn't know it moved. Let me sniff and investigate that. Mark and reward. Okay. So that's why I call it a thinking dog's game. Okay. Because they're going to be constantly trying different behaviors in order to get to the reinforcement. So there's going to be things that, I want to teach my dog where I want them to get in an object, put one foot on an object, go around an object, go under an object, flip an object over, put the object in their mouth, and then bring it to me, right? Drop the object in their mouth. So there's lots of behaviors that they can offer. So what that means is when they're starting to learn this, they're not going to have as many behaviors in their Rolodex. But once they start to learn what types of behaviors they can throw at us, they're going to get better and better at that game. Okay. So going back to the skateboard, once we, have the dog continuously sniffing, right? What is the next step? Seeing if they can maybe walk across it, right? So maybe not put a foot on it, but maybe walk across. So maybe I put the skateboard in front of the dog and I take a step back, right? And so in order to get to me, they have to walk across it, and maybe a paw accidentally hits it. That's what you call a jackpot moment. Okay. When we have a jackpot, that means we mark and then we reward. Instead of with 1 piece of kibble, we reward with 5 pieces of kibble. Or instead of kibble, we reward with a piece of cheese. Or we reward with whatever food we have, plus praise, plus petting. So we have a big jackpot party. And guess what? That's where the session ends. We end on a positive note. We end on that jackpot. So the last thing they remember was, I got a jackpot for my foot accidentally touching that skateboard, right? Now, some dogs, they might put a paw on it immediately. And that's perfect, right? Then we have to start to raise criteria. So once they have 1 foot on it, what's our next criteria? It could be 2 feet on it. It could be 1 foot and holding it there for longer. It could be having 1 foot on it and keeping it there while the skateboard moves. It's kind of up to you. Okay, it's kind of up to the dog. If I have a nervous dog introducing movement, they may not succeed as much, right? If I have a super tenacious dog, maybe I want to go ahead and introduce movement so they can kind of get that out of the way and add a second paw. Right? So there's a really cute game called 101 Things You Can Do with a Cardboard Box that Karen Pryor started. You can Google it, and it's really, really fun. It's really good for your timing because training is a mechanical skill, especially when you're talking about free shaping. So that game is out there and can help you with your timing, and your dog can have success with that game too. So that was one side of the coin with free shaping. It sounds a little bit complicated. We're going to send you videos about that, and then we're going to do a little bit here for a demo in just a moment. But we're going to do kind of the opposite side of the coin of free shaping or shaping in general, where we give the dog a little bit more help. Okay. So with certain behaviors, like stationary behavior, so behaviors that are kind of compact and enclosed in one little spot where the dog doesn't do a lot of moving. And we're going to start with play dead. Play dead is a really, really, certainly it'll impress your friends at barbecues when we have barbecues again. But it's a really cute game, but it also serves multiple purposes, and those are my favorite kind of tricks. So just to get everybody on the same page, let me grab my helper here. Oh gosh, there we go. So play dead, just so everybody's on the same page. Body position all the way on the floor, like they're laying down on their side. All 4 feet are kind of straight out, and head is on the ground. Certainly there are kind of flourishes, might have their head position kind of a little bit cocked back, maybe not as much on the ground. But the reason I love play dead is that dual purpose. It also encourages calmness. So if you have a dog that is really excitable, play dead is a really great game. It takes a lot of energy to get into the behavior, and it takes a lot of energy to get out of the behavior. So even if they stay in that behavior for just a few seconds, it encourages calmness because they have to be still. And so when the body is still, normally the mind follows. I won't say that happens every time, but it at least helps. It helps a little bit of de-escalation. So they're hyped up. You say, bang, play dead. They flop on their side. They hold it for a few seconds, and then they have to get all the way back up. Chances are they're a little bit more calm than they started. So if you're at a brewery and your dog's being bonkers, right? You can say play dead, and they can hold that position if they don't have a strong down or stay, right? And of course, it's super, super cute too. But it also helps with shaping and helps to kind of teach you guys and understand what shaping actually is, because it's a little bit complex. So we're going to use luring and capturing for this kind of opposite coin side of shaping to teach that play dead. So question to everybody. If we are following that shaping definition, where shaping is we have a final behavior, play dead. We have to break that behavior down into the smallest steps possible, right? There's no prop involved, so we don't have to get engaged with any type of prop. So it's just the body position. So if we were to break that behavior down into little bitty baby steps, the first step would be a down, right? So this is why I encourage people back in week 2 and week 3, why sits and downs are so important. I always say they're not the sexiest of behaviors, but if you're going to do competitive obedience or tricks, they are the foundation to a lot of that. So if your dog can't do a down, can't hold it down for a few seconds, they're not going to be successful with a play dead or a roll over or one of those body positions. If your dog doesn't know sit or down, they're not going to be able to do a sit stay or a down stay if you're going to do competitive obedience or CGC, anything like that. So it's really important for them to understand those basic fundamentals, even though you're like, oh, they know it. We want them to know it well, because once you kind of get into the more sexy stuff, the more exciting stuff, the more advanced stuff, just like anything else, you know, if I was a tennis player, I would need to know those fundamentals before I can get out on the court with another really good player. Okay. So those fundamentals are important. So we are going to do a down first. Okay. So it's a nice little warm up, right? So I got treats here in my pouch, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is warm up with some downs. All right. I'm going to do this with my dog in just a minute, but I'm just going to go through the process so you guys kind of understand once we start going through it, because sometimes I can't talk as much when I'm working with the dog. So the first thing we're going to do is warm up with a few downs. So I'll lower that down, bend at the elbow, palm down. And if your dog knows it without a food lure, perfect. You're going to mark and reward each time they do a down. And either they eat that lure that's in your hand, or if you've already faded that lure, your reward comes from the pouch. Okay. So just going to do 4 or 5 downs, right? So what this does, it warms up the body, right? So it gets that muscle flowing, gets the brain ready to work. But it also builds value in the position. If my dog if you think about it from my dog's perspective, if I keep luring it down, right? It's a lot of effort to kind of go up and down, right? So I'm an animal, I'm a dog. I want to work smarter, not harder. So I may end up holding this down before I get back up. And that's what we want. We want them to hopefully offer a down and have them hold that position, because that will allow us to raise criteria to the next step. Okay. So first I want them to be able to lay down. So I'll lure that several times. If they're holding that down without me asking, then I might do several clicks, reward, click, reward, click, reward, while they're in the down position, just for holding the position without moving, without popping up. If your dog pops up, that's okay, right? We're going to play until they're willing to hold that down for a few seconds. All right. Then we are going to raise criteria once they are successful, right? Shaping is all about creating opportunities for them to be successful. It is not about being stingy with the rewards, okay? Because if you are stingy with the rewards, if you're not giving out a high rate of reinforcement, they're going to be like, this game's too hard. I don't want to play. I quit. Bye. I'm distracted, or I'll just get up and leave, right? So the next criteria is I want to see if I can lure their head up and down, back and forth, while holding the down position. Okay, so we've built value in the down position. They have had several repetitions of marking and rewarding for that position. Now we're going to raise criteria. where I just want to do a very slight lure of their head up, down, back, and forth. Once they do that without popping up, mark and reward. Okay? If they pop up, lure them back into a down, mark and reward, and try again. Right? If you're too stingy, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to quit. All right? So, you know, have some kibble, have some you know, cheese, have some meat in there, mix it all together, and you know, you can use their meal, right? So this is not the time to be super stingy on the rewards. You need to have several because we're going to do several repetitions in a row, okay? So once they are really good at holding the down and luring, this is when the kind of luring the play dead comes in, right? So we're shaping this behavior. All right. So here's my dog. They're going to be facing me. Typically for me, I just prefer to be on the ground with my dogs. You'll see. Eventually I want to be, you know, straight up. But in the beginning, it just helps when I'm on the ground with them for marking and rewarding just logistically. If you are not able to get on the ground with them, start in a chair or on the couch. And if you're not able to do that, you can certainly do it standing. Some dogs are a little bit weird about us kind of standing over them. So they may not be super comfortable. So you may have to work up to that. But just be aware why I am on the floor. So we're going to be on the floor. My dog's going to be looking at me. They're going to be in a down position, and we've already lured them, right? Lured their head, and they've held the down position. Now we're going to raise criteria. So now you get a cookie if you follow my next lure, okay? So if my dog plays dead to the right, right? So head goes to the right, I'm going to use my right hand to lure. If I want to lure my dog to the left, head to the left, my left, I'm going to use my left hand to lure, okay? So be aware that that's going to help your lure. I'm a righty, so we're going to go to the right automatically, okay? I just go to the right automatically. Your dog is going to have a position that they prefer. So they're going to be more comfortable on the right, more comfortable on the left. You're just going to have to test it out. Some of you guys, if you study your dogs really, really well, you know that they always lay down in the sun on the right. You've never seen them lay on the left. Start on the right, okay? If they're really struggling with one side, try the other side. So you're going to have to do a little bit of troubleshooting, and that's okay. We're wearing our patience pants, so we are good. So our next lure, I'm going to have my food in my hand like a little excavator. You know, those things that kind of dig in the ground, right? So I'm going to lure to the right. I'm going to put it right by my dog's nose. I'm going to move up their shoulder towards their rib cage. So I'm going to keep my hand close to their body, okay? And I'm going to go real slow. Remember that lure has to be glued to their nose. If I go too fast where they don't follow it, I went too fast, right? So I'm going to keep that lure right by their nose until I get to that rib cage, and then I'm going to mark and reward. So that's my next criteria. I want them to hold the down position, nose to rib cage, right? What that does is that pulls the shoulder around, and it pulls on the spine, and it's going to cause that hip to pop where they're on their side and kind of rolling a little bit, okay? So if they follow that lure, nose to rib cage, that hip's going to pop, and if they succeed, you're going to mark and reward, okay? That's a big step. So do that rep several times. Guess what? You might have to shape this criteria. So maybe you can only get your dog to go from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Do several reps of that. Mark and reward when they get 6 to 9, 6 to 9, 6 to 9. Mark and reward. We had several reps of successes in a row. Now I'm going to raise criteria. Let's see if I can get from 9 to rib cage, 9 to 12, right? Once that hip pops, once you see that, have your jackpot session, and that's where it ends, okay? Tonight, I'll probably speed up the process so you guys can actually see what the final behavior looks like. So it'll be kind of fast forwarded. I want you guys to take your time at home. I really want you to not be afraid of lots of reps in a row. These guys learn by association and repetition. If you just do it once, reward them once, then they ain't gonna remember. We got to do it multiple times in a row, okay? Now, once we get nose to rib cage, then we're going to have that food. I'm going to follow along their back. Their head's going to follow. My hand's going to pull towards the floor. And I'll imagine that's the floor right there. It's going to go here, look up towards the floor. This hip's already going to be rolled. This head will roll the last shoulder and we'll be in that play dead position, okay? We'll get into finger guns and all that stuff, but really I just want you guys to be able to find that body position tonight, all right? So I think what we might do, we don't have too many people watching in real time, but those of you guys watching, if you want to do it along with me, and I might leave a minute or so at the end for you guys to troubleshoot a little bit if you have questions. But otherwise, I'm going to go grab my dog real quick and hope that he cooperates. We'll see. It'll be a surprise. Right, Patty Cake? Okay. Let's see if we can get down on the ground like this. All right. Can we see us? Oh, Patty, that's my chin. So you notice I have hardwood floors, and we're going to do this on a bed, okay? And so if you have dogs, and you're going to do any type of floor exercises when you're teaching down, when you're teaching roll over, play dead, pat, good boy, any of that stuff, it helps to have a soft surface. If they are sensitive about traction, good boy. If it's too slippery, they may not want to work on a hard floor. It might seem like they're being stubborn, but they don't feel safe. They're worried about traction, right? Yes. What we'll see in a minute, I have deep-chested dogs. So they don't really like being on their back too much. So I always want to play on a soft surface to encourage them to continue working, okay? So he's cheating a little bit. He knows the game already. He's like, I just lay here. Go boy. So let's see if we can lure him into a sit, and then we lure into a down. And I'm going to use my clicker tonight. So I'm going to click and reward. Click and reward just to build value in this position. So he's holding that position. So I am rewarding him so he knows that that position is what I want. Look at that nice little tail. You missed it. All right, what's the next step? We said we're going to raise criteria. Can he follow this lure while staying into a down, right? Good job. He's so smart. Now he's getting a little greedy. Everybody see that paw? Yeah, greedy. Good job. All right, forgot to click there. So if everybody can see his body position, his back hip is already rolled. He's already chosen, I want to go that way. So his head's going to go that way, to the right, to my right. So I'm going to use my right hand. I'm going to grab a couple of treats, not a couple, more like 5 or 6. I'm getting greedy. He's like, stop talking. You don't normally do this much talking, lady. So I'm not going to fight with him. If I wanted to go left, I'm going to try to go left. He's already chosen the right. So why pick a battle, right? So I'm going to lure to the right. So head to rib cage. Good job. Head to rib cage. Good job. It's going to make me look so good. Don't do it yet. Head to rib cage. Good job. So yeah, we haven't been practicing, but he knows the drill. So I'm going to see if I can get him back up and see if we can do it from the beginning. Good job. All right, so I'm going to grab a handful of treats. Down. More him. Good job. So we got that hip hop. So that's awesome. So he's going a lot quicker than you guys probably will because he knows this drill. That's okay. But if your dog is already choosing a side, that's perfect. Okay? Go with the side that they're already comfortable with. All right? So once we get nose to rib cage, I'm going to follow that head. Oh, he didn't like that very much. So he didn't do what I wanted him to do, so he doesn't get a cookie for that. No sympathy cookies, okay? If they don't get the criteria that we want, we have to go backwards one step. So I'm going to give him a cookie for nose to rib cage, okay? So he didn't really understand what we were supposed to do that next step. So I went a little bit too fast because he was not successful, right? So I'm going to see if I can do nose to rib cage again. Good job. There we go. Good job. Excellent. So he got the rest of those cookies in my hand. We had a jackpot, right? And that's where we're going to end the session. Okay? So this is not about, playing this game for an hour, guys. I'll probably do these because it's a thinking game. They're going to get so much more worn out than their normal stuff because we're not really telling them what to do too much. We're just guiding them with that lure, and we're rewarding them accordingly. But they're going to be using a lot of their brain, and so we don't want to work them to the point of exhaustion, okay? So you always want to end on a good note, okay? You are such a good demo dog. You were such a good demo dog. He's like, got anything else in there? Got anything else? All right, I'm going to keep you out. Are you going to be sweet? He's like, maybe. Patty. Just kidding. I'm going to go put him away real quick so he doesn't bother his sister. All right, guys. So if you guys have questions about that, definitely let me know. Hopefully, if you guys are working on that at home, you have started it a little bit. And if you want to pause it and come back, you're welcome to do that. Now he's upset that he doesn't get to work. So sad. So we got the position that hold on, guys. say there's a slippery slope in rewarding barking and having barking happening when we're doing videos. So he does not like it when it is not his turn to work anymore. Oh my goodness. So we got the body position that we were looking for, right? So our lure, if you think about it, it starts here, goes here, and eventually to the floor. So if we speed that up, our lure is really left to right, right? So I have my lure here, I pull it to the side, and this is what our lure looks like. But remember, these guys are taking in the whole environment, right? And I'm on the floor with them. So I can't immediately stand up and add finger guns and they're going to know what that means, right? So we have to build the behavior first. So now we have a consistent lure, right? So we're going to get lots of successful repetitions of food lure from this side to this side, right? And just feet out, head on the ground. That's the body position we want. Now we're going to pair it with a hand signal and a verbal cue. Okay, so this is our lure. So we're halfway there to our hand signal. But remember, I'm on the ground, so that's part of the cue as well. So I want to see if I can introduce the finger guns. So bang, play dead. Some people don't like that. It's too violent. If you want to use pow with just a closed fist, you can use pow. Or some people say go night night. Any of those will work, so they're interchangeable with what we're about to do. So if this is our lure for finger guns, so my dog's here, so I lure my dog here to here. They give me that body position consistently with this lure. So how does this turn into finger guns? So we're going to have our food in our hand. So at one point, instead of an open hand, they know we have food. I'm going to tuck those 3 fingers in. That's going to hold on to the food. Now we have a finger gun, and I can lure this way. Okay? So we're going to do repetitions with our lure with the addition of finger guns. Okay? But if I went from here on my knees to immediately standing up and pointing, right, they may not understand that. You have to think about it from the dog's perspective. We have to take little baby steps in order to introduce those cues. Okay? So now we have our finger gun. So if I am, if I am, cross-legged on the floor, maybe I go up to my knees and do the lure with the finger gun. And then maybe I put 1 knee up and then 2 knees up. And then I'm standing straight up, but I'm bent over. Now I can be standing straight up, presenting the finger gun with no movement. Okay? So we have to break that down. We have to shape the behavior. We can't just change it all at once and expect our dogs to know what's going on. Okay? Because remember, they are excellent at reading our body language. So if just the slightest little thing changes, they may think we're doing something completely different. Okay. And they may get confused and frustrated and act like they don't want to play anymore. Right. So we have to take it into little digestible baby steps for them to be able to understand. Okay. Now, once we have a consistent, dependable behavior with our finger guns, then if we refer back to week 3, now we know if we pass our 4 out of 5 test, can I lure my dog 4 out of 5 times successfully with my finger guns? Then if the answer is yes, then they are ready to add a verbal cue. So right before the behavior happens, I'll say bang, cue the behavior. They will do the behavior and they will start to pair that word with that behavior. And then once we have several repetitions of that, then we can start to ask for it. Okay. So just like we talked about in week 3, then you can fade the food lure. So we can just use bang and the verbal cue. And if you don't want a hand signal, you can fade the hand signal. Okay. You can just say bang, right? So I like to typically teach play dead first, because the dogs are being still and the dog kind of learns how to get in that position and kind of have impulse control and control over their body. think about it when you are teaching these things that involve your dog's entire body. They are using muscles that they don't normally use, right? So the more they do it, the better they get at that, body position. It's the same thing if like we were learning gymnastics, right? Oh God, if I tried to do a cartwheel right now, that would be hilarious. But if I worked on it every day, a little bit every day, in a month, I might be able to do a decent cartwheel because I've built up that muscle. So be aware that, again, we're keeping track of that we have a comfortable surface for them to work on, that we're not working for too long, especially if you guys have senior dogs. They're no spring chickens anymore. They can certainly, they certainly like to get up and about, certainly, but we just don't want to work them too much. So be aware. Same thing when we're like learning spinning and twirling, right? We don't want them to, be drunk dogs walking down the street. We want to be aware that this is physical work for their bodies, and we need to adjust accordingly, right? So I teach roll or play dead first, so they get to build that muscle and have that impulse control and know how to keep their body still. And then our rollover is basically the same lure. It's like a play dead is a half of a rollover. So what I'm going to do is just speed up my lure. I'll speed it up and it'll turn into this. And then eventually this. Okay. And they will learn how to follow that lure just a little bit faster. And if they kind of swing their body, they might end up on their back kind of turtling. And that's where you can help them out. You can just kind of physically shift them over all the way where their legs are on the opposite side. So we get a full rollover, okay? And again, be aware they're going to have one side that they prefer than the other side, okay? So again, this is work for their bodies, so be respectful of that. They have sides that they prefer that are more comfortable, so start with those, okay? So that's a little bit about shaping, guys. It's one of my favorite things. Again, it's for, it's a thinking dog's game. So you guys that have independent thinkers, right, that are out in the world, that are bold, that are tenacious, that are driving you crazy, they are going to love shaping because it occupies their brain. So instead of squirrel, 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 right, it gives them something to think about. So this is a really good alternative enrichment plan. Learn tricks, okay? Learn shaping, and it can occupy that brain, okay? Remember, mental enrichment is going to be a lot more time efficient than physical enrichment, okay? So this is a really good enrichment alternative for those tenacious types, okay? Now, those of you guys who are on track for therapy work or service work that are very obedient and who wait for your signals a lot, that is certainly good. Be aware they may not be as successful as quickly as a more independent thinker dog because they're used to waiting for us to give them direction. Not saying that they can't learn it. They absolutely can. But be aware that that might be a little bit slower than you would imagine. It doesn't mean that they're better, one's better or worse than the other. Just like humans, some are extroverts, some are introverts, some are good at some things, some are good at, better at other things. So this is one of those differences. Okay, so those dogs who are used to waiting for direction may struggle with shaping, but it's definitely something that they can learn, and the more they do it, the better they get at it. They just have to kind of learn how the game is played. Okay. All right, guys, another demo is going to be another stationary behavior. So this is just going to be a simple lure, no shaping involved. It's one of the 4 stationary behaviors. So we've already learned sit and down, right? So the third one will be stand. So up to this point, if they're just understanding what sit and down is, right, we have 2 options: sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. That's a pattern, right? And remember, these guys are excellent at learning patterns. So chances are, if you're doing what we call puppy push-ups, sit down, sit down, sit down, in a row, and that's your pattern, chances are your dog may have identified that pattern, is offering those behaviors without really paying attention to what you're asking for. So we're going to add a third one in there, which is stand, which is going to give you an option for changing that pattern. So now we have stand. Now we can do sit, down, stand, down, sit, down, stand, down, sit, stand, sit, down, right? And so they're not capable of identifying the pattern as long as we keep it kind of random. So why else do you need stand? If you have a dog that doesn't like the vet, having a stand gives them something to do, something productive to do when they're on the vet's table, while they're getting their temperature, while we're checking them for ticks, while they're getting their nails done. Lots of options. Sometimes for some dogs, if they are worried about, stimuli in the environment, such as vets, if you give them, if you work in obedience, sometimes that can alleviate the anxiety. So having a nice stand stay is something that you can work on. Big hairy dogs, all you doodle folks. I know there's lots of doodle folks listening. Your groomer will love you if your dog understands what stand means. I was helping a groomer one time, and she was bathing a 150-pound Saint Bernard, and he was disgustingly filthy. She washed him. It took about an hour and 15 minutes, and he laid back into the dirty water and wouldn't get up. So he had to have a second bath. No, we weren't frustrated at all. But having a stand command can help your groomer out. So love your groomer. Be nice to your groomer. It is such hard work. So at the groomer, at the vet, when they're getting their weight at the vet, having a nice stand is a good stationary behavior to have. So we have our sit stay, our down stay, and a stand stay. So you guys can work on all of those. So I'll teach you how to teach it real quick. Jojo, you want to play? Jojo. She's like, bye, guys. You want to play? Hi. All right. So let me see if we can point her in the right direction. Where are you at, Jojo? Can you see both of us? It's going to be tricky. Sorry, guys, there's a glare, so I might have to bend over so you can see my hand. So she's going to offer me a sit. They're going to have to understand what stand means when they're in a sit and when they're in a down. So it's going to be a simple lure. Sit is palm up, bend at the elbow. Down is palm down, bend at the elbow. Oh, that was a good down. You get a treat for that. And then stand is going to be, I'm going to have my lure palm up, pull straight back. Okay. So they're going to be able to follow that lure and come out of that down. Okay. So sit. So I'm going to put that right in front of her face, pull forward. Yes, good girl. Can we try it again? Sit. Pull straight back. Yes, good girl. Sit. Lure forward, pull straight back. Yes, good girl. And she really likes more traction, so I'm going to give her this bed. That's better. Sit. Pull straight forward. Oh. Come on. All right, so we did several repetitions and she wasn't budging, right? So I'm not going to do the same thing and expect a different result. I'm going to try something else. So I upped my reinforcement. So instead of 1 cookie, now I have 3 cookies. So I'm going to put her back into a sit. Say, she's my arthritis girl. You want to come from a down? Okay. You got it. Up my rate of reinforcement. You got it. See, she might be tired. See, it's a long day. All right, I'm going to switch positions and see if that helps her. See, I'm confused. All right, we'll have a break for you. Sorry, guys. She's my old lady. I should have tried it with the youngin. She's not the best at the doing that for very long because she's got bad hips. She's got bad hips. I know. Should you get a cookie for that? Can you give me a sit? Say, not even a sit. All right, guys. So stand again, palm up, bend at the elbow, pull straight back. Okay. So in the beginning, you're going to be kind of holding that treat steady. You don't want to go too fast. If your lure leaves their nose, that's going too fast. So you want it to be a magnet. Whew, that was a salmon treat, and I just inhaled that. Woo! You're gonna put it right in front of their nose and pull straight back. Okay. So if I'm standing up, it should look like this, right? So not off to the side, not in front. Pull straight back. And those of you guys who are, teaching shake and paw, target, touch, any of those things, these are all hand signals. So make sure your hand signals look different. So we don't want stand to look like little quirks to it. So palm up, pull straight back. So that'll be your stand command. Once they've passed the 4 out of 5 test, then you can add that verbal cue where you can add STAND. Okay. Not before that. Make sure you have a behavior that you can pair with that verbal cue first. Don't add the verbal cue before you have the behavior. Okay. All right, guys. So stand, relatively simple if you have a dog that hips don't hurt all the time. Is that true? Is that true? All right, we'll do focus next time. We'll do focus with her next, and she just has to sit there. She should be pretty good at that. So focus, watch me, eyes. It's going to be a behavior where I ask for eye contact. So if you remember way back in week 1, we're on week 7. If you remember way back in week 1, we talked about Auto Watch, which was a capturing game. We waited until they offered eye contact, and we rewarded them for that. It was part of that say please. So a sit and a down, sit or down, and eye contact, right? So we captured that. We didn't ask them to do it. At this point, we're seven lectures in. So at this point, we should be ready to have a word that we can ask for focus. Let's say we're on a walk and they're in front of us and they're just, looking around. If I see a dog coming and my dog is dog reactive, I can ask for a focus where they will have to stop and turn around and give me eye contact. So that can be very useful. Let's say my kid is scared, or my dog is scared of kids, and I see a kid, running around. I can ask for focus. Then they don't have to look and focus on the kid that's coming. They can focus on me, and I just created an opportunity to reward my dog. Okay. So this is a really easy thing to train. It's a very simple thing to train, but it's hard with distractions. Okay. So just like everything that we've talked about with dog training, you want to start in the most boring room in your house, have a strong learning history, lots of successful repetitions in the house before we start adding distractions. Okay. So we have to build up the behavior first before we expect it in Doggy Disneyland. We have to have them comfortable with it inside before we can expect it outside. Okay. So the first step is to see if I can get back to. So normally I start with being in a standing position. Because you guys can't see me, I'm going to be in a more kneeled position. You guys see me? There we go. So you can see my eyes and her eyes. Okay, so focus. I don't care what her body position is. She's probably going to give me a default sit. That's okay. I want to be able to use focus when I'm walking, so I don't care what her body position does. I'm going to mark as soon as she gives me eye contact. And I'm going to create that eye contact by putting the lure right in front of her nose and pulling it up to my eyes. Okay, so I'm pulling it up to where I want her to look. As soon as she looks, I'm going to mark and hand feed. Okay, so pull it up to my eyes. Good job. Show her that food. Pull up to my eyes. So there's that default sit. I don't care that she's sitting. I'm going to reward for the eye contact. Good job. I'll come back to that. Good job. Make sure you're marking when your hand is up here, not when you're delivering. So eye contact, mark, deliver the food. Okay? So notice she's pretty good at this, right? And I haven't asked for anything. She's just, sorry, I have bad knees on hardwood floor. She has, passed that 4 out of 5 test. So chances are inside your dog is going to get this relatively quickly. Does my house look like a wreck? Oh God. They're going to understand this relatively quickly, so we can go ahead and put a word to it pretty quickly. So it's up to you guys. You can use focus. You can say eyes, watch me, hear, look, whatever you want to mean eye contact. Okay, so that's up to you guys. So she did it. She did it so nicely. So I'm still going to use a food lure. I'm going to pull it up to my eyes. Right before I do that, I can ask for that. I can give that verbal cue. Focus. Good job. Focus. Good job. Focus. Good job. Focus. Good job. Now, make sure your dog is looking at your eyeballs. The reason we have the food lure happening is because we want to reinforce that eye contact. We want them to understand that the treats don't come from the pouch. The treats come from the human. Okay? So I don't want them looking at the pouch for reinforcement. I want them to understand that if you want access to reinforcement, your default is to go to that eye contact. Now, this is not a default behavior, but when I ask for focus, I don't want there to be any question about where you want to look. I want you to look at my eyeballs. Okay? Focus. Girl. All right. So once they get really good at that, you can start fading the lure. And you can just ask for focus, and they should know what that means. Okay? But don't do it too quick. Don't get greedy trainer syndrome. All right. So while I have her here, I'm going to do what we call Focus 2.0, which is where we kind of test her a little bit. And a lot of people may not like this next exercise because they feel like it's a little bit teasing of the dog. But we're inside. We're going to introduce minimal distractions. So it's going to be a good test for you guys to be able to see if your dog is capable of at least giving you focus for a few seconds around minor distractions. If not, how can we expect them to go on a walk with us if there's kids running around, or squirrels, or other dogs, or stranger danger, or cars, or skateboards, or bicycles? There's so much more distractions. So this exercise is a really good barometer on where your dog's focus is. Okay. So once they understand what focus means, right? And I'm going to kind of turn her around a little bit so you guys can see. All right, now you see me. You can kind of see us both now. Okay, good. Good girl. So, assuming she knows what focus means, I'm going to ask for it, and then I'm going to introduce an extra layer of difficulty by holding out food in my hands in a distracting way. So I'm going to ask for focus. Good girl. Yes. Good job. Focus. Yes. Oh, you should see this side eye. I'm just using focus so you guys can troubleshoot, because we don't use that word. We use another word. Focus. Now notice she's looking right at the tree and not at my eyes. So just like an auto watch, we can help cheat a little bit, but I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say focus, 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 because if you remember back in week 3, never, ever, ever repeat your verbal cues, right? So that was really hard for her, okay? So if you want to tone it down, you can make it not so exciting. So I could say focus. Yes. You're funny. So have some fun with it, guys. You can do focus, 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 right? If your dog can do all of that, then they're doing pretty good, right? Good job, Jojo. Let me wrap up with them here. Boop, boop, boop. Go. Boop. Go around. Too close. Too close. This way. All right, you're going to have to help yourself out of that pickle. So the idea is to not tease them. That's not what, I want to do. I want to get a good barometer on what my dog's triggers are. Is it movement? Is it food? Is it proximity to their nose? Is it all of the above? If you have a real toy hungry dog, you can use 2 tennis balls or a rope toy and a Kong. Have some fun with it. Have, a hot dog here and some, really ooey gooey stinky treats in this hand, right? So you can start with 1 treat in one hand and then end with a handful in both hands, right? So don't get greedy. We're going to slowly work up to that. But the idea is to see if they can access your eye contact with that focus word around distractions, and realize that if they want access to that reinforcement, be it toys, food, or those lifestyle rewards, all they have to do is give you that eye contact, and we will, we'll make it happen. Okay. So that exercise is not to frustrate them or tease them. It's to act as a good barometer to see, are they capable of working around those types of distractions? And that's usually what I hear a lot is that, oh my gosh, they're so good in the house, but then once we go outside, it's like I lose them. But they don't get to practice with distractions inside. This is a great stepping stone to try to work your way outside around distractions, because, the sillier that you can get that your dog can work around those distractions, the easier it's going to be to deal with the cats and the bicycles and the skateboards, right? So we have to start with kind of the easier stuff and then work our way up to the hard stuff, right? So asking for focus, we can certainly capture it like we did in auto watch, but there's going to be some instances where I want to ask for it. I want to be proactive in my training. when I am on a walk and there are things that are coming that might be scary to my dog or that might distract my dog or trigger my dog to have an overreaction, I would much rather give them something to do, like focus, rather than giving them something not to do, like leave it, that we'll talk about next week, or next class, which is Thursday, I think. So I love focus, watch me, look, eyes, whatever you want to call it. I love to work on that, especially on walks, once they understand the concept, what we're asking for, because you can be so much more proactive in dealing with those distractions. So if I don't let my dog kind of stare at the cat that's coming or the dog that's coming, if I ask for a focus, then I can kind of move off the sidewalk, I can turn around, I can just ask for that focus, and that intensity level doesn't get to a point that is unmanageable. So it's a really good proactive tool. And it also just reinforces the fact that if your dog wants access to reinforcement in his or her environment, that you are the gateway to that. And it starts with our eyes. We talked about a lot today, guys. We talked about shaping. We talked about stand. We talked about focus. So that's usually our kind of most active in our group classes. So I certainly expect questions, troubleshooting, stuff that you guys might need or want. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thursday will be kind of graduation, but it'll be a full lecture just like normal. And that'll be on Thursday with Auntie Megan. But I hope everybody is being safe and healthy, and can't believe we're almost to May. It's crazy, guys. We just appreciate you hanging in and hope you guys are enjoying the videos. Hope you're getting to spend some quality time with family and your dogs, and hopefully that I hope that you are practicing self-care too, because that's important as well. Okay, we got to take care of ourselves first, and then we can take care of everybody else. I know that's a hard lesson. I'm trying to learn that lesson too. All right, guys, let us know if you need anything. Me and JoJo and Patty are signing off. Right.